Hello, this is Pursuing God's Heart, now John's Gospel, chapter 8. And I mentioned a couple of days ago when we looked at John 6, we thought about this idea of an I am statement that doesn't have something after it. And John 8 has got three of them. Okay, so you've got the I am statements, like John 8 verse 12, Jesus said, I am the light of the world. Amazing. Okay, I am the light of the world. That's a normal I am statement. It gets listed with the seven I am statements that people will often list in John's Gospel. But there's another list of seven. They're technically called I am absolutes. But I just call them I ams with nothing after. Okay, just an I am. Boom, take that. And so in John 8, we saw one in John 6 when Jesus walked on water. I am, don't be afraid. Well, in John 8, there's the famous one at the end of the chapter. I mentioned it then, I'll mention it again. He's talking to this crowd that has become quite antagonistic, and he's made a comment about Abraham, and they said, hang on a minute, you're not even 50 years old yet. You've seen Abraham, how's that possible? Jesus said, truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. And they clearly understood what he was saying because they picked up stones to throw at him. Right? That was just a trigger for them. You cannot say, I am, the way Jesus said, I am. But go back, and I want you to see the other two times. These are the highlights, really, for me here in this chapter. The other two times that we have a reference to Jesus saying, and I am. First of all, in John 8 it's verse 24, but let's jump in at verse 23. He said to them, you are from below, I am from above, you are of this world, I am not of this world. Verse 24, I told you that you would die in your sins, for unless you believe that I am, you will die in your sins. It's translated, I am he, because I am is awkward in English, but literally what it's saying there is, unless you believe that I am, you will die in your sins. That's quite a statement, isn't it? Unless we grasp who Jesus is, our dead in sin state remains and we die still dead. Unless we grasp who he is. He's the I am. The God who reveals himself in the Old Testament as Yahweh, and however you want to pronounce that. This is Jesus saying, unless you believe that I am, you will die in your sins. And then again in verse 28, Jesus said to them, when you have lifted up the Son of Man, then you will know that I am, and that I do nothing on my own authority, but speak just as the Father taught me. When you have lifted up the Son of Man, then you will know that I am. That's an amazing statement. Back in John 3, Jesus said to Nicodemus that just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whoever believes in him. And Nicodemus is kind of scratching his head at that point. But now in John 8, Jesus uses that lifted up language for the second time. It will come again later in the book. But he says, when you have lifted up the Son of Man, then you will know. It's almost like Jesus on the cross is the clearest revelation of the divine identity of who his Father is being revealed through him. Why? Well, to put it simply, because Jesus hanging naked, shamed, humiliated, totally selflessly dying on the cross, that Jesus reveals to us the heart of the great I am. That's what our God is like. When the Son of Man is lifted up, then you will know that I am.